Well, it's good to have you back again on the square, and today we're looking at two key issues here in Nigeria. Just recently we were there in Kenya to talk about the elections that will be coming on August 9. There's a big election, that is, and we'll be covering that particular election. But in Nigeria, the elections are still about 2023, some months away. But two key things are actually holding the polity down in the country, talking about the elections and security. So today on the square, we'll be talking about the politics of the big players in the games. And I'll be speaking with a political analyst here in Lagos, Nigeria, Ken Okolugbo, who will be speaking with me on some of the political dynamics and dynamism in the country. But again, we'll also dig in deep to look at what the Nigerian government is doing. You must have heard of that story that the government is still trying to, put its finger on, talking about the purchase of some luxury vehicles for neighboring Nigeria in the fight against terrorism. Welcome to the square. I'm Sulaiman. Well, the 2023 elections get closer every day, and the candidates have started to seek the support of the people. Now, one noticeable omission in many of these candidates' speeches is the issue of security, which is today one of Nigeria's greatest challenges. Now, as voters grow more desirous of participating in elections, with 12 million new voters registering, more security breakdowns are being recorded. Now, the economy and other challenges are being addressed, but Nigerian problems have been widespread. More numbers suggest how Nigerians have registered to vote regionally, with the North expectedly having the highest number of registered voters. Now, in 2023 elections, it will provide fresh options for Nigerians, with all of the candidates offering their plans for the country. But more than politics, sustenance is crucial. What should Nigerians hold out for in a president? How can Nigeria have a secure election to bring on a candidate who can secure the country? Now, we'll be unpacking these on the square today. Joining me first is Ken Okolugbo. He's a Public Affairs Analyst. Good to see you, Ken, and thanks for your time. Now, quickly now, Ken, what kind of leader does Nigeria need at this point in time to fix the current issues?
Well, the truth about it is, looking at the area of leaders that have come up, we need to think of someone who will be able to resonate with the people. We're going through a very difficult period. We talked about security. Security at this material point in time is so paramount. Where you're living in Abuja, the nation's capital, and you don't feel safe. How much more for those living outside Abuja, which is not the nation's capital? So Nigerians are looking at the Nigerians are looking at a leader who is going to make the difference. And that leader should come with, well, say the youth population, because if you talked about 12 million registration. 12 million registration clearly shows that people are more interested in voting than they were interested a couple of years back. We've never had it, we've never had this kind of rush in terms of people taking interest. And most of this registration is being done because of the presidency. Of course, people are interested in who becomes a senator, who becomes a House of Rep, who becomes a governor, who becomes a member of the House of Assembly. But nothing is as important as the presidential election of 2023, because that's the make or mark. So we're looking at, but Nigerians basically are looking at someone who can get the dollar back and to the exchange rate of at least 200 naira to a dollar. They're looking for someone who can take bread back to maybe 250 naira. They're looking at who can take cement back to 2,000 naira. They're looking for who can take rice back to maybe 10,000 naira a bag. They're looking for who can stop the hyperinflation and the devaluation of the naira, as I'll put it. That's what Nigerians are looking for at this material point in time.
And Ken, allow me to jump in here quickly here, because now you're looking at the economy, but if you look at it critically, is a lot on the plate. Doesn't that look like a person who will be able to do too much for the people? Do you see a sense in any of the candidates?
Well, if you look at the APC has presented Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and Nigerians are looking at it right now. Do you understand? And saying that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is one of the old order. Yes, he's from the South. People want a president from the South. And so that gives him an edge. And he comes from the ruling party. But is he going to resonate with the people? Is he going to be able to keep the people on back to what they have always wanted, which is a country that they can call their own, a country that can be secure? They look at Atiku Abubakar, some call him the serial contestant. Nigerians are looking at the PDP as the alternative in terms of an opposition party. But is Atiku Abubakar going to resonate with the people, especially for those who believe in the fact that power should have come to the South and shouldn't go back to the North? And they see Atiku Abubakar as one of the old order, just like they see Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Then you now look at a Peter Obi who has been trending not only in the social media, but we've also seen that most of those who have gone to register have been influenced by Peter Obi. And you ask yourself, does he have the structure to be able to win this election, at least in the North? If he's able to take it in the South, will he be able to have the spread? Because don't forget that you need two-thirds of two-thirds. That is, you need a two-thirds of the states to be able to have a spread. Even if you have a majority of the votes, if you don't have that spread, you are likely going to go into a runoff. Is Peter Obi going to be able to win the votes in Kano? They look at Kwankwaso, who lately seems to have only had his influence in the North. And you ask yourself, are Nigerians going to be able to make this peak? And so Nigerians are looking for a paradigm shift from the old order. And maybe that is why Peter Obi seems to be one that is resonating with Nigerians at this point in time. But how far he will go is a question you have to ask yourself.
And Ken, it looks like it's my lucky day. I seem to have someone who's a political scientist and also a politician right before me. Help us make sense of this. What does it mean when politicians in Nigeria talk about structure? Because you just said he doesn't seem to have the structure, talking about the Labour candidate.
Now, when you're talking about structure, first and foremost, you're looking at, well, we have 774 local governments. And for you to be able to win elections, you must have presence in those 774 local governments. So structure basically for people means that you must have at least a councillor. Even if you don't have a councillor, you must have a local government chairman, you must have a governor, you must have a senator, you must have a House of Assembly member, you must have a House of Rep member. But naturally, even if you don't have those, you must be able to have your party members. You must be able to have a party chairman in each of the wards of the 774 local governments. Because when people go to the polls, they are going to vote for your party. And they're going to be able to work to protect those votes, because we know it's Beavers now. And the Beavers has given room to reduce rigging in any of the elections we have seen so far in the off-season elections. So those are the structures we're talking about. Has Labour, if you remember, Labour has not been on the scene for more than 2 months. Has he been able to establish at least a ward structure? Let me even forget those that are in office. Has he been able to establish ward executives in each of those local governments? Yes, the people will come out to vote, but they need to have a sense of direction. They need to have planning. They need to have strategy. But looking at the time, we've never had an election that candidates have been produced and they have this long period of time to go to the polls. So maybe that will give them time to be able to establish this. PDP, APC, you can see their presence in the 774 local governments of Nigeria. You can't take it from those two parties. They are ward chairmen in every local government, in every ward. They are party chairmen in every local government. And also they have zonal and senatorial chairmen and women leader, youth leader, secretary. Those are the structures we're talking about. And these structures also come expensive because you have to also fund those structures.
And Ken, let's talk about the population, the voting population. Because if the structure is that important, what does it mean when we talk about the general populace, the voting public? The voting public far outnumbers the politicians, the party members. So how does this convert to not being able to also win if you have the bulk percentage of Nigerians on your side without a structure?
Now, what now happens is, without that structure, you must now have to carry out what you call voters education. You must have to also have people that will go to the nook and cranny of these areas where you have your supporters and be able to ask them basically to come out and vote and protect their votes. So what you are now saying is that there will not be an orderly, you will not have a strategy room, for example, where you have agents. You know, you must have agents in all the polling units to be able to protect.
Well, I was hoping that that glitch will clear out. And once it does, Ken will be back to wrap up on his analysis of what we're to expect in the coming elections. And Ken, if you're back, okay, I'll let you complete your thoughts on that so that we can jump into other issues. Apologies there.
No, I'm saying that you must have the agents in every polling unit, because election starts from the polling units. That is where results are going to be transmitted. Education for those who believe in you, to be able to know that they must go and identify their polling units. They must go there early. They must vote. They must wait for their votes to be counted. And those votes have to be transmitted for you now to be able to have a sense of at least making 25% in 2/3 of the 36 states of Nigeria. That will also be a tall order, but it's quite possible. And so that's why you see PDP and APC confident that maybe Peter Obi might likely have his chance in 2027 because of the fact that he doesn't have the structure. But again, it is a narrative that you cannot hold on to with the way things are in Nigeria now. People are eager for a change. So there is also the possibility that a lot of PDP members and a lot of APC members will be also voting for Labour, for example, if you go into the contest. And that is where there will be a very big problem, because you have this impression that these people are in support of your party, but by the time you see the results, you start seeing that they're rather voting for Labour instead of your party. That is what is called anti-party, and that's what most people might likely want to do if the situation in the country continues as it is right now.
Now, let's see if we can put our fingers on this, talking about voting patterns. For instance, the big election is just a few days away in Kenya. And it is an election that is almost going along the tribal or regional lines. Here in Nigeria, you just said that Nigerians are looking out for, more Nigerians are looking out for a southern president. Now, let's throw in the religious angle. Christian, Muslim, Muslim. How important is finding that religious balance from a Nigerian point of view?
Oh, very important. That is why I think the APC has had their strategy wrong. Yes, they had the Muslim ticket because they're looking at someone like Shetima being able to pull the votes from the Northeast. Borno Yobe has never been won by the opposition. And so they're also looking at Bauchi and most likely maybe leaving Taraba and Adamawa to the opposition, which is PDP. Then they're looking at Northwest. Maybe Kwakwansu will decide to divide the votes of the PDP in the Northwest. And then APC will be able to have a very a strong share, maybe because of Buhari, who comes from the Northwest. And they are hoping that North Central will be where they will take their peak, and they'll take Southwest, and APC and PDP will take South-South, and maybe Peter Obi will take Southeast. But I think that strategy might not work, because Nigerians are we have never been divided among religious and or ethnic lines like we have been divided right now. We have a country where people are only eager to see that the Fulani, or rather, if you say the Muslims, they are associated with most of the kidnapping that are going on right now in the country. The ISWAP, the Boko Haram are basically dominated by one faith, which is the which is Islamic faith. And the Christians are going to be uncomfortable thinking that, look, now we do not have number one, number two as a Christian. And so when you come south, you come southeast, you come southwest, even when you have so many Muslims as Yorubas, you might still have a lot of suspicion. And so I think that strategy was one that I didn't think that they got it right. And you look at PDP, at least PDP went for the Muslim Christian ticket. But now the problem there in PDP has to do with the Fulani. Not that the Fulanis are bad, if you ask me, but now the Fulani president handing over to another Fulani president is going to be unacceptable in a country that is as divided as it is right now.
And looking at these analyses, Ken, one wonders if these politicians didn't see these narratives. How is it that they still went ahead to go with the candidates, especially for the APC and the PDP? Well, it looks like I lost Ken for a bit, and well, I do hope Ken Okolugbo comes back.
Again.
Yeah, oh, good, you're back. Ken, I'm looking at the analysis. You've just told us about, the negative trend that may affect the PDP, looking at a candidate taking over from a fellow northerner, specifically Fulani, and also talking about the Muslim ticket, which the APC has just, thrown at the people. These are politicians, and they are not neophytes, homegrown and professional. Didn't they see these problems ahead of them to go into a big election?
Well, the thing about it is, if you say political neophytes, yes, but PDP as a party, APC as a party have governors. You have only one governor for Abga. And there's seeming confidence that in a party where you have a governor, it becomes very impossible for another party to win that election. You get my take. And so if you look at the amount of votes that have come in from this state where you have sitting governors, we should be able to win it. But I think it is quite myopic to look at it from that perspective. Because if you look at it from that perspective, what it tells you is that a third force cannot emerge. But from what we have seen Nigerians do on social media, if they can replicate it, it makes it impossible and makes it very possible for us to have another party.
So let's talk about the possibilities now. For instance, right before now, till this moment, the Southeast makes a strong claim to the presidency and has a strong candidate in Peter Obi. Perhaps it's time for Southeastern president, but from your analysis, you're looking at him building a structure gradually and looking at 2007, 20, what's that year again? Good. So, but there's this new desire to see change, and is evident from how many Nigerians have registered to vote, as we've seen in the numbers. How can these people online ensure that what we feel, see, and gauge online is brought to fruition on election day?
Okay, what strategy? Yes, online. It can only transform when they have a situation room. You must be able to look at the states and be able to tell yourself that in each of those states, I will be able to get this percentage of votes. If I can't get this percentage of votes in each of the states, I have made a mistake. I can't have 10% in Zamfara. I have 10% in Kano, 15% in Kaduna. I come and have 80% in Lagos, 50% in Osun, 18 in Enugu, 90 in Anambra, and so on and so forth. And I find out that at the end of the day, I have majority of the votes, but I do not have 25% or 2/3 of the states. In that way, I cannot be declared president. And so that is one thing they must tell themselves, because you might have those in the social media, basically maybe registering in Lagos and in a few other states. How can that translate to victory? It can't translate to victory if they come and dump their votes, have the marginal difference in majority, and do not have the spread, the 25% in two-thirds of the states. So that strategy is such that you must be able to go around the states. And for example, look at the elections that just finished in Osun State. The Labour Party didn't do very well. People said, well, it was not Peter Obi that was on the ballot. But people can judge from these off-season elections how the people are going to vote. For example, PDP won that election in Osun State. A lot of people have looked at it that it wasn't about party, it was about their delegates. It was about the personality of their delegates that won that election. And so if you look at it state by state by state, you should be able to establish yourself that percentage that you're looking for, you can get it in those states, and you can still maintain a majority. So you can as well say that in 10 states, I might not make 25%, but I want to make 25% in 26 states or in 24 states, which is two-thirds of the 36 states. And then you win the election. It's about strategy and about your situation room.
And Ken, you know, you've also been in situation room back when you were in active politics for the PDP leading up to that presidential election in 2019 and 2015. Help us here talk about these numbers and what we feel out on the streets. The numbers are out and they give an inkling of what to expect in 2023. Do you think Nigerian electorates are detribalized? Because now you're talking about personalities as against political parties.
Oh, yeah. At this point in time, the ethnic agenda is still very strong. You can't wish it away from what is happening right now. But you look at the personality here. Why is Peter Obi, why are we focusing on Peter Obi on this program? It's because Peter Obi is resonating with the people right now on the streets, whether we like it or we don't like it. Even the leading candidates have accepted and said that he's a social media presidential candidate and that they don't think that it will translate to vote. In fact, Atiku Abubakar said 90% of the Northerners are not on social media. But the truth about it is that those same Northerners are hungry. They're also feeling the impact of this worsening situation of the economy that we find ourselves. And so you cannot even gauge the take now that it is only because they're not on social media, they will not be able to resonate with the changes that we so desire. So in the situation room, like you rightly said, I remember in 2010, one of the things that we were looking at in that situation room was Nigerians where zoning was the main issue. It wasn't about the economy. People were talking about Yar'Adua having died and Goodluck Jonathan going for the elections and saying that it was the turn of the North. It wasn't the turn of the South. And so one of the things that we did at that particular point in time was identifying those key states where we knew that it was going to be impossible for us to get 25%. You can't believe that most of us in that situation were not much, but we worked so hard that we could identify the states that it was impossible. And those were the same states that the sitting president couldn't get 25% at the end of the day, but we were able to up it because of those things that we had seen, those strategies that we had come to play in the situation room. And that's why it's very key, because when you have that situation room, you can sit down, you can know programs like this. These are things that change public opinion. These are what people want to see on issues on television. They might not readily understand what is happening, but it also helps in shaping their opinion and shaping their understanding. And that's why it's very key.
Now, two big parties now, the PDP and the APC, they're enmeshed in some troubles. For instance, the APC is still trying to bring some of the aggrieved parliamentarians on its side. And for the PDP, we'll still see what's going on with some of those who lost out, specifically the governor of Rivers State in southern Nigeria, Nyesom Wike, and the president candidate. So how can these two parties mend fences before the big day?
Well, it will be seen as, one, they have to go to the elections close-knit together. The APC has the problem of the Muslim ticket. A lot of the people who are Christians, for example, I was looking at the television yesterday and I saw that two key people visited Nyesom Wike from the APC, Babachi Lawal and the former speaker, Dogara. Those are people that are aggrieved right now that the APC is going on a Muslim ticket. Now, you notice that the PDP also had a meeting with Governor Wike, those who supported Governor Wike. And you had the only two governors in the Southeast in that meeting of PDP extraction, the only PDP governor in the Southwest, and the only PDP governor in the North Central. And in the South, you had Governor Wike himself. So what that tells you is that there's a lot of problems, like you have said, there's a lot of crises ahead. But campaigns do not start until September 28th. So I think the parties have enough time to mend fences between now and September 28th. Otherwise, they give room more for the third force to emerge. And looking at it now, Peter Obi looks a lot stronger than Kwakwansu at this point. We must face reality in terms of spread and in terms of the youth acceptance at this material point in time.
And Ken, before we let you go, because it looks like it's what Nigerians have always looked out for. Nigerians are disenchanted with the two known political parties, the APC and the PDP. Both have had shots at the presidency. And now securing the votes on the big day is very important. My next guest will be talking about security. But quickly here, Ken, how can voting centers be secured during elections? Because there must be ways of keeping the voters safe first, especially in the face of the bravado of terrorists and bandits.
The best way to secure the votes will be the people. They are the ones to protect their votes on election day, not the military. When you protect the votes, it becomes impossible for the thugs to take over. And because of BVAS, the bimodal accreditation system, it makes it easier now for you to protect your votes. The results are transmitted, and it becomes difficult for you to change those results by the time you're going to collation centers. So the people are going to be the key factor when it comes to security of votes at this material point in time. Of course, you have the military and the police in the borders, in the periphery, making sure that people are not killed, there are no intrusions. But in the polling units, the people are going to be key in security.
Okay, now I'd like to, at this point, I'd like to thank you for being such nice company on the program today. Thanks for your time as always. Coming up, retired Commodore Abimbola Ayuba joins me to look at security in Nigeria and talk more on other agencies of government on how best they can plug the loopholes. Join us again. Well, since 2009, I'm struggling with dates tonight, Nigeria has dealt with terrorism, sadly so, with millions of people displaced and many others killed. The country has faced new challenges in security with issues around the growth of kidnapping for ransom, banditry, infiltration of security apparatus, attacks on presidential guards, and even convoys and secessionist violence in Nigeria's southeast. Everywhere in Nigeria today is affected by one security issue or the other, and the numbers point to it. Now, schools, roads, rail, homes, markets, farms, you name it, even forests. It's hard to call where being a Nigerian is safe, not even being on the president's convoy. Now, the military is stretched The police is barely adequate, and Nigerians do not want to join forces again. Now, security architecture in the country begs for rejiggering, but even after billions of dollars have been reportedly spent on arms and ammunition, bandits and terrorists have grown in strength and skill. Who can sustain Nigeria? How can Nigeria be kept together? And how can good governance help to tackle insecurity? Joining me now is Rtd Commodore Abimbola Ayuba. He's a security consultant. Good to see you, and thanks for your time as always. Now, good governance may be used to tackle insecurity, especially the likes Nigeria faces. Is this a problem of bad governance that we're dealing with?
Thank you, Sulaiman, for having me on this new channel 422. We'll say partly poor governance and, of course, weak control of the state by virtue of some of the structural root causes of terrorism, the major source of motivator for terrorists, because the state have to assert itself, and also when you go back in time, some of the structural defects have been the issue of weakening of the local government system, which have made life at the local government to live in, and thereby allowing people to emigrate or move out of the spaces, leaving the weak, the elderly, and the sick, which has provided opportunity for these predators to find space within our national borders.
Well, Commodore Ayuba, you know, what's yet to be done in terms of keeping Nigeria more secure? I say this because listening to you, you said something about grassroots governance, the local government administration, which is almost absent at the point. Now, what about other agencies of government? Nigerians always point at the troops, leaving out the customs, the immigration. What part should they be playing at this point in time?
Well, you know, it's all points to the same thing. When there's no governance at the local government, there are supposed to be the presence of the DSS, the Civil Defense Corps at the local government level. But when the local government are threatened, unsafe, all these security forces will vacate these areas. And of course, there's this new trend that we're observing, that it appears that most are better engaged in VIP protection, and have left the basic, their basic community policing function, which also begins to interrogate the need to revisit community policing and state policing as an option towards of control of spaces, especially spaces that have by the military and needs to be protected.
You know, the problem are enormous, no doubt, listening to you and other security experts. Do you think it's a problem, there's also the problem of personnel rather than the system alone in place?
Well, if you look at the United Nations standard for policing, Nigeria have adequate number of policemen. I think about 400 people. And what has happened is that the more policemen are given to fewer people. For instance, if you see convoys rolling on the streets, you could find as much as 20 policemen following one official. And when you begin to aggregate that on a national basis, you will understand that the security system is tending more towards regime protection rather than protection of the citizenry as prescribed by international laws and regulations.
So in this case, what should the Inspector General of Police do? Because first, if the people are left unprotected, especially the civil population, shouldn't the Inspector General of Police look back and see how they can plug those loopholes as highlighted by you?
Thank you, Sulai. The Inspector General of Police, we have the same dilemma as any other service chief we have. It's in the Federation have become troubles, and that will now put pressure on the number of personnel that is available at any given time to address the situation. So that is why the issue of central policing has proven not to be the best option, and that there's need now to immediately allow the states to develop their security architecture, albeit to be monitored and regulated from the center. But it will be ideal if each community have their own policing system. And of course, like I do say at this kind of interactions, each of the traditional systems have their policing system. So what we need to do is to agree now that it's about time we unbundle the police, like we have unbundled the power holding, electricity, like we have unbundled, privatized, and semi-commercialize some of the institutions. It is time that we revisit this, because that is the way to go to life.
Well, hardware, software, we've seen that Ayman al-Zawahiri has just been taken out using drones, and Nigeria has always asked for support, and the Tucano jets are already here. What are we not getting right in this fight?
Well, hardware alone cannot fight war against terror. Like I say, that some of the root causes of terrorism must be revisited. And I did mention in part, one of them are the structural causes. The other one are the accelerator causes that have allowed terrorists to find it easy to perpetrate themselves, which include access to internet, new technology, more advanced motorized way of going around, and that points to this usage of motorcycles as a vehicle of preference by these terrorists, and of course many other factors. The other two will be the motivational causes, which include proceeds from criminality such as kidnapping for ransom, and lastly the trigger causes. While adequate measures or military kinetic measures are being taken to take out some of these problems, there must be more concerted efforts to revisit the root causes, giving more powers to the local government by returning policing those ungoverned spaces that have been recovered by military kinetic operations. So if we're able to start this, and in combination with understanding that the Nigerian space is large enough for, it's too large for a central police to do. And so like this is getting closer to general elections. You will imagine how many thousand policemen had to be deployed to Osun State. For example, about 21,000 policemen were said to have been deployed to Osun State alone during the last elections there. So what will be required in a national general election will be humongous, and that means there will virtually be nobody left to protect.
You know, Commodore Abimbola, off the top of my head, I'm thinking the last we checked, motorcycles are not, you know, vehicles that move silently. So you can imagine hundreds of motorcycles, you know, coming in a direction, all with the noise. Still, we do not have the people in the local authority and, of course, the security to know that these people are moving towards a location. How is it that the commoners more like pounce on the people in a surprise attack on motorbikes?
First of all, I mentioned that the usage of motorbikes is now recognized as a vehicle of choice for these bandits, terrorists, as we may want to call them. I do say, if you need to ask some basic questions, if 300 bikes are being driven to cause mayhem somewhere, where did they get their fuel from? Where the noise generated from them, like you said, is enough to alert people. And if you apply technology, therefore, thermal sensing devices, because in the atmosphere, you will know the presence or absence of these people from the communities with their hibernate. So it's like a conspiracy of silence to lie. People know something, they are too afraid to mention it because of fear of reprisal. And this has to be addressed critically by the legitimate forces rebuilding confidence in local communities and the traditional system.
You know, when we talk about people being afraid, and, you know, I've spoken to quite a number of security experts, especially those who have served the country and still serving. You're one of those. Specifically on the show, we had Dennis Amakri, one of Nigeria's all-time best intelligence officer, where he said categorically on the show that intelligence were passed to authorities of the attacks on the train and Kuje prison. What should the government do when such, are trashed or thrown away or discarded? I can't believe that's frozen again, but anyway, we hope to come back because there's some questions that we must ask of experts like Commodore Abimbola Ayuba, and it has to do with some of those security reports which the Nigerian government were told that they got from the agencies like the Department of State Services and few others, alerting them of impending dangers. Sadly, nothing was done. Commodore Ayuba, good to know that you're back. Quickly, I was trying to look at some concerns of some retired, experts like yourself. On the show, we had Dennis Amakri, and he said to Africa that intelligence, was actually passed to agencies of government on the attacks on Kuje prison and the train on the Kaduna-Abuja route. What should the government be doing at this point in time to plug such loopholes? That's an all. It looks like it's freezing now, the connection. But I think I'm going to take some moments. Let's see how we can get Commodore Ayuba back online. Once it's back, we need answers to those questions. And these are some of the concerns of the everyday Nigerian and African who's watching. How so that a security report was given out that bandits or men were coming to attack a prison and nothing was done. But, the situation here is that many security experts, as we've had Kabir Adamu on the show yesterday, he talks about the ungoverned spaces in Nigeria, which is very key and instructive. And he also made mention of a series of other agencies that the government should also look towards, the customs, the immigration. And he said the Customs Service and Immigration, they have a whole lot to do in the protection of Nigerian, porous borders. And that is why the Comptroller General of Customs and, of course, that of Immigration and Nigeria's Interior Minister all should be speaking to the people. And some of the concerns also raised on the show yesterday were of agencies of government that should enlighten the people and also educate the people. Top on the list for Nigeria is the National Orientation Agency. I see that Commodore Abimbola Ayuba is back. Apologies to our viewers. Now that you're back quickly, I need to go back to that question, and it has to do with security report, which we were told that the government and agencies got, and nothing was done still until the attackers came to the prison and on the train. What should the government do in a case where intelligence were discarded? Now, I understand there's a day on the show. But again, I'll take a moment and I'll come back and we'll see if we can have answers to that. Stay with us. Well, it's our home run here on VSA, and of course, you know, sometimes you have to blame it on the boogie on the rain, but today is the network, so we have an alternative. We'll use the lines and conclude this conversation. Commodore Ayuba, thanks for your time and your patience. You know, every problem has its basis, and of course, we'll also talk about the politicians, how they can resolve some of these key issues. But I go back to the question because Nigerians would want a sense of what should be done in a case where intelligence are passed of an impending attack, and at the end of the day, the attack came to be nothing done. What should the government do to those who received such intelligence?
Thank you very much, Sulaiman. It is important for us to understand that the system will not condone the domain of impunity. The real issue is that when intelligence has been provided, and I want to say actionable intelligence, it will be the duty of those who are tasked with that responsibility, especially at the height of the leadership, to make sure they bring that intelligence information to the knowledge of the commander-in-chief or whoever the service chief is that should deal with that particular information. But what we find is that in the last couple of weeks, a month and a half, 2 months, there has been more interest and focus have been shifted more to politicking. So I suspect that most of the intelligence that came in will have been kept under piles of bureaucracy, which itself is not acceptable, and therefore it will be desirable to find those responsible to be made answerable, rather than it is better to make 1, 2, 3, 10 people answerable for what they have done wrong, than for us to continue to lose tens and hundreds of citizens the way it's happening right now.
Let me jump on this as we wrap up. There are recent threats of expansion to areas of Nigeria they've never been. How do you expect the government to react to this intelligence?
Well, it requires a very, very drastic response, credible response by pushing and going after these identifiable groups of people and ensuring that they are decimated and removed from our border. And those who are found to be conspiring with them should be penalized for it. This country is greater than any individual or group, and therefore we must do all that it takes to keep our country, Nigeria, safe and more prosperous.
I'd like to thank you for your time, retired Commodore Abimbola Ayuba. Many thanks for being with us on the show. And for those watching across the continent, you can catch up on our YouTube, and still to come on our news, 9 p.m. WAT. We'll be speaking with one of the chiefs in southwest of Nigeria as he reacts to a security situation. Gani Adams will be with us live on the 9 p.m. news. Stay with us there.